Welcome to the State of Health. I'm your host, Karen Bowling, Cabinet Secretary for the West Virginia Department of Health and Human Resources. In today's show, we'll hear the incredible story of how CPR helped save the life of a young man who was hit by lightning, highlighting why high school students in West Virginia must now learn CPR. Also, we will discuss how one group is taking an innovative approach to tackling the child obesity problem in West Virginia. Plus, we learn why DHHR is stepping up its efforts to educate new moms about their baby's health. We begin with that unbelievable story about 18-year-old Zach Sandy, who was struck by lightning in 2012 while playing a softball game at Parkersburg Church Camp. Camp counselor Caleb Disdale quickly began applying CPR. As a result, Zach is alive and well today. Recently, the two men teamed up again in Ritchie County during a high school CPR class. They talk about what happened that day.
In the middle of a softball game playing softball, there was a loud boom. I got knocked down. When I looked up, I seen Zach laying down in left field, and when I ran over to him and seen the way he was laying, began to realize what had happened. Struck by lightning, he was locked stiff, smoke pouring off of his body. You could smell him.
I think it's crazy to think that it actually happened to me. Like, I was the one struck by lightning. I was the one that needed CPR.
I began to call 911, perform CPR. As we begin to do CPR, I can vividly picture what was going on, the emotions of fear and anxiety, and also I can do this, working through your body as you begin to perform CPR for 14 minutes, waiting for the ambulances to arrive.
I'm thankful that Caleb knew CPR. He knew what to do in a situation like this.
You could hear the sirens in the background as you perform CPR, the people next to you saying, keep going, don't stop, keep going.
And not only did he know what to do, but he didn't second guess himself. He did what he was taught to do. Every
time I relive the story of Zach, it re-hits me with all those same emotions as it did the first time I did it, remembering, man, Zach's alive today.
I was 18 then, I'm 21 now. I'm getting ready to graduate college. I'm getting ready to get married. There's a lot of things happening in my life that would have never happened if someone didn't know how to do CPR that day. And so you never know whose life you're going to be able to impact.
What an incredible story. Their experience highlights the importance of CPR, especially during February's National Heart Month. Joining me is Christine Compton with the American Heart Association. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about Senate Bill 7. I know that bill was put into place so that all high school students would learn to do CPR. Let's talk about the importance of that in West Virginia.
It's absolutely important here in West Virginia, as the story just was played for us between Zach and Caleb and how that happened. A lot of times in our rural terrain, it can take emergency vehicles 15, 20, 30, sometimes longer minutes to get to a victim of sudden cardiac arrest. And so the more people that we have trained as bystanders that can perform CPR, intervene in an emergency and keep that blood pumping through the body until an ambulance gets there, it's absolutely imperative.
And we save lives.
Absolutely.
Being able to do that, we save lives.
When a bystander jumps in and helps out, it doubles or triples the victim's chances of survival.
Years ago, I worked in the Wyoming County school system and actually taught some CPR classes to high school students, and I found they were so enthusiastic and very excited about learning it because they wanted to be prepared. What happens in West Virginia now with this bill? I mean, how do school systems actually get these classes or this training completed?
So, great question, because in a lot of schools, you bring up what you were doing in Wyoming County, and in a lot of school districts we found that there were some really great programs going on and kids were learning some really in-depth CPR skills, but then in other schools maybe that wasn't happening on the same level. So what we wanted to do, it's a national effort by the American Heart Association to increase those numbers of bystanders coming out of high school. So we have millions of bystanders now that are trained every year. So West Virginia was the 25th state to pass that legislation, and now schools are required to teach the psychomotor compressions, which are practicing the compressions. So not just watching a video, but we know that when people do, they learn and retain better. And so that's why it's very important to not just watch a video or have a pamphlet or a discussion about it. It's actually practicing those skills.
Now, do people come into the schools, or is this something that people are already in the schools that are trained to teach, or is this just part of the regular curriculum now?
Well, it was originally part of the regular curriculum for health classes, but we wanted to leave that up to local control to figure out how schools can best make it work in their schools. So they have a variety of options. In a lot of cases, it's the health teacher that can teach it. It does not have to be a certified person, but you can get a video from the American Heart Association. We have an example of one of those right here.
Wow, that's great.
There's different options. You can bring in EMS volunteers. They're required to do that as part of their licensure. So in a lot of counties, they're doing that very well, partnering with schools. You could bring in a school nurse or another nurse from the community. Red Cross volunteers, Heart Association, a lot of options based on what's best for that school.
See, and I think that's really smart. I think that does allow you to be able to draw from your community, and I think
Absolutely.
that probably engages more people actively in learning about, CPR, because, if you learn as a high school student, you're probably going to go home and tell somebody about it. Would you agree?
Absolutely, and we hope so, because also with our rural terrain and the makeup of our Appalachia culture, a lot of times there are young folks that are living with grandparents or other folks that may need CPR at some point. So, for example, we have a CPR Anytime kit that folks can get and take home with an inflatable mini mannequin in there, and the DVD that they can teach friends and family and share that knowledge.
I know you brought our Recessa Annie here with us, but
She's not inflated.
She's not inflated, but
sad looking there.
I do think it points to the concept of you have to really do it to feel it, and that really helps students, I think, learn about it. Do you get a good response from these? The ability for students to actually practice?
We really do, and a great example just last month, Pikeview High School down in Mercer County did a day-long, or I think it was a couple hours, but they turned it into a day-long event with a health fair and stuff to really bring all the issues to the focus. But they had the Annies out, and they were doing it to the beat Staying Alive, which is about 100 to 120 beats per minute, so that's really a great reminder to have disco in your mind, but they were clicking to the beat, all 100 and some students in the assembly, and it was just a great example of how they made that work in their school, and they had a lot of fun doing it.
That's great. I think those are really innovative, creative ideas. Now, people want to learn CPR. I know, we're teaching it in the schools now, but, if you have a loved one or a family member that, you are concerned about, because heart disease is significant in the state of West Virginia.
Absolutely.
How do they contact someone to take a class and to learn more about this if you're just someone out there in the community?
So you can find classes available in your area by going to the American Heart Association's website, which is aha.org. Or AmericanHeart.org. You could Google either one. And then the American Red Cross also does a lot of teachings and trainings throughout the state. You could Google that as well. And again, looking for volunteers in communities, through EMS, fire departments, that type of thing, if a community member wants to learn.
I know as with the American Heart Association, you're always worried about heart health, and we know that, February is Heart Month, and, there'll be a lot of activities going on, Senate Bill 7 and the CPR, this was, critical. What other things do you think people need to know about heart disease and what we should do really as a state, and not just with young people, but with all of us?
Well, so in addition to learning those life-saving measures, we want to take an active role in helping people prevent that issue of heart disease. So staying active, trying to get that regular fitness in. A lot of us have been shoveling snow, for example, the last few days. That's an issue if you're not fit. But, taking walks, doing things to be as healthy as possible, taking the stairs when you can, and really trying to eat a heart-healthy diet, trying to stay away from added sodium and sugar and fats, and doing those things that we've all heard about for years that can help keep us heart healthy.
Well, I think it's important. We're working with our young people. They really need to be starting early on the diet and exercise as well. We're teaching people to save lives. We're doing it in the community and the schools. It's just great to know, and appreciate the work of the American Heart Association and what you have done to, really take this and put it out in the forefront for people in the state of West Virginia.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Great
Thank
work.
you so much. When we come back, one group is taking a different approach to tackling childhood obesity. Please stay with us.